In ancient times, when kingdoms rose and fell by the strength of their armies, the land of Israel found itself facing a powerful enemy. The Philistines had gathered their forces and marched into the valley of Elah. On one hill stood the army of Israel. On the opposite hill stood the Philistines. Between them lay the valley, silent but heavy with fear and expectation. From the Philistine camp stepped forward a warrior named Goliath of Gath. He was a giant, towering over every soldier on the field. His body was covered in bronze armor, his helmet gleamed in the sunlight, and his spear was larger than most men could lift. When he walked, the ground seemed to tremble beneath his feet. Each day, Goliath came down into the valley and shouted his challenge. He mocked the army of Israel and
Can't you bring a person that can challenge me?
dared them to send out a man to fight him. He promised that the battle would be decided by a single combat. If he were defeated, the Philistines would serve Israel. But if he won, Israel would become servants to the Philistines. For 40 days, morning and evening, Goliath repeated his challenge. And for 40 days, fear gripped the hearts of Israel's soldiers. They had never seen a warrior like him. Even King Saul, the tallest and strongest man in Israel, was afraid. No one dared to step forward. Far from the battlefield, a young shepherd named David watched over his father's sheep. He was the youngest of his brothers and was not considered a warrior. His days were spent in quiet fields, guiding his flock, playing music, and learning to trust God in solitude. When danger came, when lions or bears attacked, David defended his sheep and learned that God was faithful to deliver him. One day, David's father asked him to carry food to his older brothers who were serving in the army. He also asked David to bring back news of how they were doing. David obeyed, leaving his sheep in safe hands and setting out early in the morning. When David arrived at the camp, he heard shouting from the valley below. He watched as Goliath stepped forward once again, repeating his challenge. David looked around and saw fear on every face. The soldiers turned away, retreating as they had done many times before. David was confused. He could not understand how this giant was allowed to mock the people of God. He asked questions, wondering why no one would stand against him. But his words angered his older brothers.
You think you can just waltz in here and take on the giant? You're not a soldier, you're just a shepherd boy.
They accused him of pride and told him to go back home. Still, David could not ignore what he had seen. Word soon reached King Saul that a young shepherd was speaking boldly about the giant. David was brought before the king. Standing in the royal tent, small and unarmed, David spoke with quiet confidence. He reminded Saul that God had rescued him from wild animals and would surely rescue him again. David believed this battle did not belong to men, but to the Lord. Though hesitant, King Saul saw David's faith and allowed him to go. Saul placed his own armor on David, hoping to protect him. But the armor was heavy and unfamiliar. David could barely move. He removed it, knowing he could not fight with what he did not trust. Instead, David went to a nearby stream. He knelt down and selected 5 smooth stones. He placed them in his pouch and took his sling in hand. It was a simple weapon, but one he knew well. His confidence was not in the stones, but in God. As David walked into the valley of Elah, the giant saw him and laughed. Goliath was insulted that a boy had been sent to fight him. He mocked David and cursed him, certain that victory was already his. But
Is this the best Saul can do?
David did not stop. He did not run. He stood firm. He declared that while the giant trusted in weapons and strength, he trusted in the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel. David placed a stone into his sling. He began to swing it, faster and faster, as the wind rushed around him. In a single moment, he released the stone. It flew through the air and struck Goliath in the forehead. The giant stumbled, then fell face down to the ground. Silence filled the valley. Then, suddenly, the army of Israel shouted with joy. Seeing their champion defeated, the Philistines turned and fled. Israel pursued them, and the battle was won. That day, God showed that victory does not come from size, strength, or weapons, but from faith. David, the shepherd boy, became a symbol of courage and trust in God, and the people remembered that the battle belongs to the Lord. If you learned something from this story, kindly subscribe, like, and share.